Hello, everyone, to another episode of Real and Raw, Your Story is Your Medicine. And I'm so excited because today my beautiful friend Vivian is back again. Yay! Hey, Vivian. So, Vivian, you might know her as Mama Pachamama on Instagram, maybe, or from her podcast. And yeah, she's a beautiful mother of four boys, a radical birth keeper, and a meme and herbal queen.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm so excited that you're back. Like you were already here on my podcast. It's episode 14 for anyone who wants to listen to that one again. We talked all things wild pregnancy, wild parenting. And so today you're back. And I'm so excited because obviously, what are we going to talk about? Mothering babies. So I'm super excited. And yeah, hello, Vivian. Good to have you. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm so good. My three other boys are with their dad, so I get some time with the baby, and I'm so happy to be here and share because this guy will be 2 months in a couple days.
Hmm.
And I suppose I'm just like still in that like newborn postpartum bliss, although it just never seems to go away for me. I just love my babies, and I spend half
Hmm.
of my day just like talking about how much I love my babies. So
Oh.
yeah, it's like any opportunity to share on
Hmm.
that feels so good and powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, so nice. And yeah, and also hi, Echo. So he's also with you right there. Oh my God, so beautiful. And I was just saying to Vivian, like, it's real and raw. So, he's like, he might cry or whatever, or maybe not. Like you said, he's a very, very quiet baby, right?
Probably not. He like never cries, so he'll probably
Right,
just sit there
exactly.
and
So that
listen.
would be like very weird if he cries exactly today. Well, anyways, we'll see whatever happens. So yeah, it's so good to have you here. And we already had like or like asked you a few days ago already if we wanted to record another episode because I really wanted to have you on and because yeah, I just find you so inspiring and the way you live and how you do motherhood, how you just who you are. And so we talked the other day on the phone to kind of catch up and we had this really like a topic came up. And I was like, okay, let's talk about that because I feel like it's very, like I feel like it's not about enough, especially in this culture, that it's kind of like imposing a little bit the opposite. So we were really, want to go deeper into the topic of like motherhood, the beautiful sides of being a mother. And I feel like, yeah, you're like the perfect example and like the embodiment of a mother and who literally glows from the inside. And so, yeah, first I actually want to like, ask if you can maybe talk a little bit about yourself, like how you even, like how many children, I mean, I already said you have four boys, but like, how you actually were initiated into motherhood, if that was always, a topic for you, if you've always wanted to be a mother, and yeah, share a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I definitely did not always want to be a mother, and I like we spoke a little bit on this. I think there's like some brainwashing, indoctrination.
Mm,
I think there is an agenda
mm,
to kind of dissuade women from becoming mothers. And that's all I really have to say about that. I mean, yeah. So I do think I was indoctrinated with that
mm,
mentality and the whole why bring children into this dying world and you know inflict my pains upon them and this whole story and obviously I didn't really love I did not really love my single life. I was not loving uh how I was spending my time. actually, motherhood was a really like the beginning of motherhood for me was fairly traumatic. I got pregnant. I was in a relationship, a very toxic relationship. I got pregnant and ended up like running away from that man
Mm,
a few months into that pregnancy. And I knew that like there was that this was something I knew that this was like just where I was at in my journey was to have my baby and be a single mother. It just felt like, all right, this is what I'm doing.
mm,
And it was through mothering, through becoming a mother, where I finally like decided to step up in life. And I
mm,
finally started setting goals for myself, releasing, you know, the behaviors that weren't serving me. Beginning that. I mean, I'm still dealing with that now, but it was, I feel like motherhood for me was the beginning of really starting to love life. And
mm,
because it's a sense of purpose, that rite of passage, and nothing feels like holding your baby in your arms.
mm.
Nothing can feel the same way. Like there's nothing else that will make you feel that magic and that sense of responsibility. But like because we do need a sense of purpose. We do need a sense of responsibility. Like this kind of like unbounded, like free and wild is great, but if you're not able to like have some discipline and responsibility for yourself, and you're kind of just like part of the culture of like make money, party, spend money, like hook up, have all this that's like heavily
Promoted.
like a part promoted in our culture, right?
Yeah.
So to all of a sudden be stripped of that ability and to be like, okay, I need to provide, I need
Mm,
to like focus on my well-being. And that, I don't know, there was just something so magical in that shift for me. And I was just dedicated immediately when I became a mother. For me, it was like a no-brainer. Like this is, I mean, I just I can't count the hours that I've sat there and stared at all of my babies, feeling just like this is what it's about. This is what
mm,
like this is what ignited my sense of purpose. Now my purpose is even greater than just mothering, but this was like the ignition for me.
mm,
And I never would have known that had I not just like taken this leap of faith and trusted my intuition. Because prior to getting pregnant, I was that woman that was like, I don't think I want to have babies. Like,
mm.
actually, this is kind of funny. Right before I got pregnant, I had a ferret, a pet ferret, for I think 5 years. And I was like, I'm a pet mom. Like she was my baby and I loved her. She passed away like a month before I found out I was pregnant. Um, and it's just interesting that my initiation into motherhood was like right after being a pet mom, and at the time being like, I don't need a child, I've got my pet. And then
Right.
once I had my child, being like, whoa, girl, like there's no comparison here. You have like
Mm,
this is totally different.
right.
So yeah.
Ah, wow. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That's so beautiful. And this is exactly it, what you were just saying at the beginning, right? That I noticed that myself, and that's why how we got into that conversation the other day, right? We were talking right about this topic because I myself notice, and I'm doing a lot of deprogramming, deconditioning from exactly that brainwashing that a couple of years ago, I was so certain. I was like, I will never have children. Like, like this is all just indoctrination. Like the system telling you that you want children when that's not what you want. And so, you know, you I was all into that I'm all independent. I don't need anyone like super like on that track. And of course, I was just coming out of a pretty emotionally abusive relationship and it ended really badly. And so it was like completely, shut off and like in my yeah, I was super wounded. And so it was like first of all against men, like all men are bad.
Right.
And then like came the other thing, like about yeah, like having children is it's just a burden. And then like I bought into all of the stories of like having children. Like we're already too many people on this planet, first of all. Second of
Right.
all, oh my God, the climate change and babies are like the worst for the climate. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing something good. I'm not having children. I'm doing my part. I'm like, oh my God. Anyways, I didn't know better by then, but so yeah, like I noticed that I didn't know by then that I was super influenced by the external, like basically like that brainwashing coming into me. And then like after a few years when I started actually to connect with my womb, like something started to awaken. I was like, oh my God, what is this? And like at first I didn't even want to like, you know, yeah, it was like, oh no, no, this is nothing. Let's just, let's not go into there. And then we both met then also at the Radical Birth Keeper school. And shortly before, when I knew I had to do that school, was because I suddenly had that remembrance of like being there for mothers. And I was like, because I was reading a book, actually it's called Womb Awakening, and I was reading the part where they talked about the priestesses who were holding space for mothers as they were giving birth. And I was just reading that, and something so deep within me just activated and reawakened. And I remember like, yes, I've done that. I know, and I know that's what I'm here to do, right? And so I was like, okay, let's do this. And first I was like, okay, I'm not a mother. How can I do that? Right. But like that really initiated me, actually. I would say like this is what kind of initiated me into this whole other world. And then of course, like having so many beautiful women share their stories, their power stories of birthing in their power, I was like, oh my God, I want to do that too. And so, of course, I'm like, now I have to be like, okay, where am I now? Like, again, maybe not influence, no, but again, I guess just it's just the most natural thing. But so, what I kind of want to get at is like this thing of like, we are so talked into like that's something bad. And so, what I really want to, yeah, where I want to you to come in is to actually share exactly all the beautiful things about being a mother, because we only hear the challenges, how it changes your life, how it takes away your freedom and all of that. And so, yeah, because again, like I just see you and I just see the most glowing woman, and it feels like so easy. So, yeah. Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like any mother could describe it as easy, but it is
Mm,
intuitive, and there's like a full body yes to like this is part of who I am. Like I
mm,
was designed for this. I was designed for this, and taking that leap of faith of like I can do this. My intuition has guided me here. Even, I mean, I can look back and think even when I was telling myself I didn't want to be a mother, I think deep down I did know I want to be a mother,
mm,
because you can also just like, to me, it seems common sense that like basically every living thing on this planet is here to procreate and, continue life. And yeah, there's just like, so there's that aspect that like, I'm satisfying a yearning that's like in built into me.
mm,
And then along with motherhood, there's so much opportunity to heal. I like this is something that's been really like prominent for me lately. I'm deeply healing my inner child
mm,
through parenting. And I've been having these moments lately where, because I mean, basically, you're like inevitably in some way in many ways gonna fuck up as a parent. You just
Mm,
gotta accept that. Like you're
yeah.
gonna like fuck up, you're gonna fuck up your kids in certain ways, and that's just how it's gonna be. But the goal is like the least we can do is bring awareness to our own pains and our own suffering and consciously say, no, I'm not going to inflict this on my child. I know how
Mm,
much it hurt. And I think that I feel like that's my duty is to apply what I understand and know
mm,
to my own parenting and hold myself accountable to not inflict the same suffering. So I can look back at the things that made me feel sad or neglected or whatever it might be from my childhood and bring consciousness to that. So it's so beautiful because it's like time doesn't exist. I'm literally healing little Vivian while simultaneously
mm,
showing up for my children in a way that I know they deserve,
mm,
that nourishes me, that nourishes them. And like the big one for me lately is practicing patience. It feels so impossible, especially when you've got four boys, like just it's so much.
mm,
But I see how I'm showing up for them in moments in ways that I hated my parents showing up for me, you know,
mm,
like reacting to them in the ways that I hated my parents reacting to me when I was a kid. And I can see it in their face and feel it in them. And I'm just like, you know, more recently, especially just like, no, this changes with me. I'm not doing this. I'm
mm,
not going to
mm,
continue this. And one thing that's really beautiful. So I have a podcast and I've talked about this on my podcast. My eldest, who is now 8, when he was 4, particularly 4 and 5, had like particularly 4 had like what I just say anger issues. I don't know what else to call it, but he was such an angry child. And I remember based off of like certain things that I was listening to in my life and exposing myself to, I really felt this sense of like helplessness of like I'm fucked. He's fucked. I fucked up my child. That's it. It's over. By the time he's 4, he's programmed and, you know, I just fucked it up and he's just fucked for the rest of his life. I remember feeling that. And then it's so interesting over the next 4 years how much I've done, how much inner work I've done on myself and to see how much my son is healing
mm.
because of it. And it just I think that's like that's the magic right there is that it's never too late to be
Right.
a great parent. It's okay to stumble and fall. And I think once you realize that there's always room for helping heal your children even where you fucked up or whatever, I think you can finally take a nice deep breath and start enjoying parenthood.
Mm,
And it's no longer so stressful and you're like, but what if I do this thing and it ruins them forever? I don't believe in that anymore at
mm,
all. I can hold myself accountable. I can guide, I can lead. I can help him understand why I don't react in certain ways anymore that he's seen me react and why he doesn't have to. I can lovingly guide him out of the toxic behaviors that I've already taught him. And I'm doing it, I'm watching it happen. And
mm,
it's so beautiful and healing. And it just brings, it like takes, it removes all of like the fear, like the scary madness of parenting. And it makes room for like playfulness and joy.
mm,
Like
mm,
this isn't as like yeah, it's not as terrifying. It's actually parenting is really forgiving if you just
mm,
like if you're willing to bring like awareness and consciousness to it. Parenting is very forgiving
mm.
and it's fun. It's so fun. It's like fun to I'm so like I'm smiling so big thinking about just like my little boy who was 4 years ago just so distraught and
Mm,
now he's I mean, I can't believe I've never seen an 8-year-old who's so confident and
mm.
secure and strong and to see like, man, a child can heal drastically. Oh, it's beautiful. And now I'm like just in love with it.
Mm. Oh my God, I love it so much. Oh, I just get chills because I think that's such a good point that you shared this because I've heard that from other mothers that that's exactly what they fear a lot. And then there's that guilt, like, oh, I screwed up my children, like, like what I did is wrong. And like, it's so good to hear, yes, there's actually, they can heal, like just the way we can heal, they can heal too, right? And it's
Totally.
and again, it's like just ourselves. The more inner work we do, the more it ripples out and it kind of like mirrors and projects into to the
Totally.
surrounding. Oh, yeah.
And with children, it's really interesting because I think we can do the same with other adults, but adults have to like really focus on consciousness. Where I think that our children, what's so
Mm.
beautiful about them is they can heal with that without having to like consciously do it. So that's what I'm witnessing with my son is like I'm not sitting there explaining to him
Hmm.
how to do things better. Sometimes I do. Actually, that's not true. Sometimes I do. But I'm noticing that a lot of shift is happening simply by just, I don't know. It's like our children, it's the, I
Yeah.
feel like they're just so much more receptive to energy. And energy is healing depending on like
Yes.
what energy you have around you. I don't know.
Mm.
It's like I believe in magic. I think motherhood makes me believe in magic because some of the
Mm.
things that I'm witnessing as a mother, I'm like, this is magic. This is like
Wow.
magic that doesn't get talked about. Like this is so much more powerful than anyone would like have you believe in like the system we're growing up in. And yeah, I like it is hard to put into words, but I'm glowing because I've like reached that point and my heart feels peace and my nervous system is at ease because I'm just in such a place of trust. Even if we have our bad days, even if I have my bad moments, there's so much forgiveness, there's so much room for like, you know, figuring it out. And then I find that we are often in my family just like really enjoying the present moment, which is like
Mm.
the goal in life, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's so beautiful. Oh my God. Like last time, seriously, like when I talk to you, like my heart just like opens up. I'm like, oh my God, now I really want, like I want to be a mother. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. And there's another thing that comes to mind of like what makes total sense because like, like first of all, already, like giving birth, like fully sovereign in your power, like what it activates. I mean, again, I myself haven't experienced that, but just the stories I hear and the women that I see who have given birth in that power, the way they show up in life. And again, it's probably just first of all just that, and like kind of like stealing that from us, or like we're now reclaiming it, like bringing it back
Yeah.
into our hands. But like the whole concept of just how why it is being so quote unquote demonized, to being a mother. It's because isn't that like to come into your full power? Again, I'm not saying, of course, there might be women who are not mothers, who don't want to be mothers, and that's okay. But like, isn't that like, I mean, I just like just thinking about that, it makes me feel like, wow, it just makes you like even more powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the birth tells us about ourselves, it gives us insight into ourself and it's a journey of self. It's a
Mm,
journey of self. No one can step in and do that for you. In life, there's so many moments where people can step in and do something for you. Like all throughout life, there's so many moments where you can cheat, where you can scam, where you can just like, whatever. But it's like there's no like bypassing birth. Like,
mm,
and how many women are in that moment where they're like about to have their baby and they're just like just that feeling of like someone else fucking do this for me, this is so intense. And I think there's something too like proving to yourself. I mean, we don't live in a culture that's like prioritizing that, like a sense of self-worth, a sense of like
mm.
pride, right? So to prove to yourself that like I was meant for this and I can do this and I'm powerful and I this past year attended a birth with a woman who's amazing, and just the incredible shift I've witnessed in her since she gave birth. I mean, she was already just like this beautiful woman, but her confidence afterward has just been like, I mean, so inspiring to me.
Mm.
And she's young also. She's 23. So I'm just like,
Oh,
this
wow.
is like the future. Then I feel so hopeful. But
Mm.
to see
Mm.
what came from her, because you know, I experienced it in my this in myself. So but I know me, so it's easy. But to there's such it's such a different experience to witness and to
Mm.
witness, you know, witness birth is unbelievable. An undisturbed birth is absolutely unbelievable. But then to witness what happens to a mother after
Mm.
that and see her stepping into her confidence, stepping into her intuition, listening to her intuition more. And that, man, that gives me chills because I think
Oof.
every woman is capable of it. Perhaps you're not willing to do what it takes to peel back all the layers to get to that,
Mm.
but you're capable. And I feel like that's my personal belief is all humans are really capable of achieving these like incredible feelings in life and this incredible love and joy for life. But what's lacking probably most of the time is like the willingness to look into the shadows and
Mm.
to do that really difficult inner work where you're like,
Mm.
you know, it's painful. I get it. It's painful. And a lot of people just don't want to face that. And I
Yeah.
understand that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Mm. Mm. Just it really, gives me hope as well. And maybe, also for listeners who are not mothers, who might want to become a mother, or who are not sure, or are in the same situation as me, that there are still kind of like deprogramming that, and coming from that place of like not wanting it, but not fully like that it comes from a place from within, right? And it really gives me hope. And like that is like one of the points that I remember I used to say. It's like, oh, I don't think I am even like capable of doing that. Like I always said like I don't have that intuition, or like that, how do you say that? I don't know, like how do you do that? Like what do you do? Like, and of course, I guess as long as you don't have your own, you don't know how that is. But so
And like, who's telling you that? Are you really telling yourself
right.
that, or have you been fed that story
Mm,
through programming? You know
mm,
what I mean? Through like, you know, and it's subtle. Watching movies where there's a
mm,
main character you relate to, and she's telling herself that. Like we're kind of like in very subtle ways being programmed to like
mm.
feel these insecurities about ourselves because this is what we're seeing.
Yeah,
But
totally.
I don't know. I don't buy that. And I also, one thing that I'll touch on that I feel like Brett and I, my husband, we know so many people that say this, and we always just kind of giggle about it. But the one very common thing you hear is like, oh, it's not the right time. There's, you know, it's
Mm,
not the right time. Like
mhm.
we do want to have kids, but it's not the right time. And I just feel like that's such a slippery slope because it's pretty much never going to feel like the
Mm.
right time. You know, for most people, realistically, the people that are thinking like that are perhaps, I don't know, it's just so, I'm like, I don't necessarily advocate for doing it the way we did, where we just like, I mean, it's been like irresponsible, but like, just like, oh, we're pregnant. Okay, here, let's have another baby. I love the way I do it, but I definitely wouldn't encourage others to. Um, but man, yeah, there's never a right time.
Oh
But I
yeah.
don't know, it's just like back to that leap of faith. Like
Mm,
life begs for us to just like believe in ourselves a little bit more and yeah, take that leap of faith a little bit more. And
mm,
parenting is
mm,
like such a delicious way to do that because it's fun and it's interesting and it's challenging. It's like all of, you know, all of these components that are like that's living life. I think
Mm,
parenting is living life. Nothing will make you laugh more than your kid doing something
mm.
silly. Like nothing is funnier in the world than, my son who doesn't know how to say noodles, so he calls them nurdles, or, just like the dinky things they do that you're
Mm,
like cracking up about, or the sweetness of like when they first start talking, or when they, all that stuff, like nothing else, nothing
mm,
else will like serve and touch your heart like those things, but also nothing will like test your patience and challenge you. But it's like,
mm,
isn't that the purpose of life? To experience joy and laughter, but also to be challenged and also to like
mm,
grow.
mm,
We are here to like continue growing and evolving always.
mm,
And what a beautiful like focus point, like central point to have. It's like an anchor. It's like that priority of parenting, and to
mm,
have that anchor to help you continue that growth and evolution.
mm,
Mothering inspires my work. It inspires all of my relationships. Like it's my anchor. And I don't know, it's a feeling that I
mm,
don't, I really don't think you can like get this, feel this in any other way. It's something that's just so unbelievably unique to mothering, to parenting. I don't think you could like find it in anything else,
mm,
you know?
mm, 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 mm. I love your words. They're like, yeah, like just really, yeah. They're hitting deeply. Oh my God. And you know what just came to me is that, and I think it's also the way, you are mothering, the way you are, you know, raising your children. It's so, because it is so connected, it's so conscious, it's so aware, like how you do it. And I feel like there's obviously parenting and parenting. And when I see in a society also who people who also have children, and like there's I feel like it just like some have children, but there's not this connection. It's like not feeling it the way you were just describing it. And for me, that is like when I hear you speak about mothering, it's like that deep remembrance that comes up, and that longing for exactly that. This is what feels like is actual what feels real mothering to me, and not just having children in like just giving them away or whatever. And again, everyone does whatever they want, but like this for me, how you mother, that is what I'm longing for. And I feel like it's just so difficult in a way in this society, because it's not made for that. It's quite the opposite. It's exactly like, oh yeah, let's remove the children from the families, like starting from birth. Let's remove the child from the mother, and it begins there. And so like, the more I hear stories, and the more I actually hear you talk about that, it's like, this is it. This is actually the way I want to mother. This is the way I want to raise children. And I feel like it's like coming back to the basics in a way of like what actually is mothering and parenting. And yeah, like it just gets so difficult in this world. But like to be able to raise your children like that, it's like, yeah, you have to remove yourself from all of that, like the whole, like from everything, right? And I feel like that probably scares me in a way, but it's like, this is what I want. This is how I want to mother. Mm,
Yeah. Well, I think that birth is, that's why a sovereign birth is the perfect initiation into parenting like this, right? Because if you can make it through all of the criticism
mm,
that society will throw at you for birthing without a medical provider in the room with you, if you can make it through that, then you can make it through the rest of
mm,
parenthood where everyone's criticizing you for not following the normal agenda. And, I've dealt with that, God, so much. It's like, I'm just so happy. And, like in the beginning, I felt so insecure. It felt so hard I mean, I remember when I was pregnant with Steve, and I think I might have mentioned this in the last time we did a podcast together, but I remember being pregnant with Steve and getting a lot of criticism about wanting to homeschool him. You know, everyone was like,
Mm,
"Oh, but then he's going to be socially underdeveloped and this and that." Now, with all of the COVID stuff, it seems that that's not so much like a weird thing. Um, but it's funny. I mean, I'd had this intention since I was pregnant with him, and
mm,
people meet Steve, he's 8, and they're just shocked at how sociable he is. And to, you know, it's like, I mean, sometimes I'm just like, who are you? Or like, how are you my child? But you know, for instance, my mother-in-law is in town right now, and she's got an Airbnb, so the kids have been on and off spending time over there with her and coming home with me. And um, one thing that's really beautiful is, since we're not doing schooling where, you know, the kids go off into separate grades and all of
hmm
this, they're all each other's best friends, and they all miss each other when they're away from each other. Like, of course they want their alone time with, you know, at first it's really exciting, like I have mom and dad to myself or whatever, but then they're like, where are my brothers? I miss
mm,
them. They're my best friends. And that's, seeing that is so beautiful and so powerful, because I mean, I love my brother and my sister, but I definitely feel like, you know, just like most families, it's like we're not that connected. You were more in childhood more connected with your friends than your own
yeah.
siblings, which to me is like, that makes no sense. Your
Mm,
siblings are like
totally.
built-in best friends. Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And teaching them to care for each other. I mean,
Mm,
they're all caring for each other because we're around each other all the time, and they seek comfort from each other. I mean, that to me is really beautiful when one gets hurt and my hands are busy, and so they go to their big brother
mm,
to receive comfort. Like, that's so beautiful. Like, you
mm,
don't get that when the kids are off away from each other all day.
totally. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that is so true. Exactly. Yes. And I was just talking, I mean, I spent the weekend with my sister, so I was with my nieces, and I was talking to her, and she also told me that the when the older one, she's now in kindergarten, and that when she goes, like they're like the younger ones, they're like, oh, we miss her, oh, we want her to be back, and like, or for example, the twins, they go to the grandparents, to my parents, and like then they're like gone for a few days, and like the older one, she's like, yeah, but I don't want them to go, I'm gonna miss them. And it's so beautiful. Exactly. It's like, and you said that the other day when we had the conversation, you were saying that that is like you have like your own little community. And I
Mhm.
mean, that is so precious. Like, wow.
Yeah. I know,
Ugh.
I always joke, I'm like, I'm building my little army. I'm just gonna keep having babies and just like building my little army of like,
I love it so much.
it's so beautiful. I mean, yeah, you're creating your own little community, and
Hmm.
especially when it's
Hmm.
tightly knit and everyone's helping each other and teaching each other. I mean, it would be crazy to send my eldest to school with how much he does for himself, because he's, you know, we do unschooling, so he's like, just he learns what he wants to learn, but he also, you know, we do a little bit of disciplined work, so he's like practicing his handwriting and things like that. But I mean, he also gets the opportunity to help teach his little brothers, and not
Mm,
just teach them like schoolwork type stuff, but like, hey, we don't do this in the house, like, you know, it's like, it is real
wow.
like accountability within a community. That's like, and to empower the older children with that
Hmm.
kind of sense of responsibility. You know, my eldest is really proud for how he's guiding his brothers,
Mm,
which is like, that's so
wow.
cool. It's so cool. Like, things,
Mm,
and there's not the distraction of like, am I popular? Am I dressed cool? Like,
mm.
that's a huge one for me that like always bothered me about school. I feel
Oh,
like
totally.
those kinds of that kind of programming really gets in the way
Mm,
of like feeling empowered. I mean, how few kids actually feel empowered at school? It's all just like this, I mean, I have such a negative experience with
Mm,
how school
yeah.
functions and like those dynamics. Whereas like here we're cultivating something deep. Like I mean my son's like talking to me about when he's a dad and things he wants
Oh,
to do as a dad. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like that, I don't know, that's just so cool. Like I just love that.
oh, that's so amazing because they're
It's
actually part of life, like of what actually life means, building
yeah,
that
like
community that.
instilling that sense of like nothing will ever feel more meaningful than like a sense of family.
Mm,
I don't know, there's just something cultivating strong family connection, just, you know, family meals. We prioritize
mm,
like all sitting around the table and having a family meal and talking with each other. And I mean, those things are just like, I will never miss how many times I sat as a single woman lonely by myself
mm.
eating like, you know, I just like I don't miss that for myself. I'm like, you know, look around and the kids are dumping food on the floor and spilling drinks and yeah, that's frustrating, but I'm like, it's love. Like it's just all part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Yeah. And it just, like again, like when you talk about that and compare to what we're used to or like, and that's why I really feel like this is that's why we need to have these conversations to kind of like rewrite parenting, mothering, having families, what that means, like what it actually means. And, to really see like the difference, right? Of like how the other way of living and also like how I have been raised, again, like that was just normal. You just go to school, that's just what happens. But it's just so anti-life. And it's like it goes against nature. And
Right. It goes against nature. That's like that's it. That's how I view it. I'm like, nature, we are nature, and nature is this.
exactly, yeah. Ugh. I mean, no cat is sending their kids off to school. I mean, of course, it's different with animals, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is totally against nature. And like that we have been so disconnected from that. And I feel like I see it more and more what it means. And just like you said, also at school, I mean, I just remember myself at school, like that was like the worst. I mean, because you're like being forced into being someone you're not. And like you feel like you're too much and like, oh, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. It's
Mhm.
like
It's like the easiest way to kill a child's spirit. I mean, the easiest way to
totally.
kill a
Oh,
child's spirit because now they're comparing themselves to everyone else. They're no longer being themselves because they want to fit in, so they're liking the
mm,
things that the other kids like. They're feeling insecure or questioning things that once never mattered. It's like most kids don't care about what their clothes look like or what brand
right.
their clothes are, or
Mm.
how cool their backpack is. And now there's like gossip and like I there's just things that to me I'm like there's no way that this has to be part of it. Like I hated that for myself.
Oh,
I hated that
totally.
for myself.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Exactly. And it's like, how can we do it better? Right? Once you're aware of that and you cannot, like, you don't want to, you don't, there's no way that you can put your children through that, right? And so what can we do? How can we change that? And yeah, and this is it, like by also sharing this and like really being openly about how beautiful that is. And it's so amazing. I had like like a month or two ago, I was holding a closing of the bones ceremony of a dear, beautiful sister of mine, and we were like having brunch together before the ceremony, and it was like, table full of so inspiring mothers, and just hearing them speak and like the way they stand up for their children. And I was just there like, oh my God, wow. Like this gives me so much hope. It's like, yes, like we're finally like, standing up for us and for our children and saying like, no, we don't, like let's go back to honoring our children. you know, like what do they need, like really being there and
Not
yeah, just
treating them like soldiers, but treating them
oh
like
yeah.
individuals that they are. I mean, I
Mm,
love witnessing how different all my children are, and they all want different things and
mm,
need different things. And it is my duty as a mother, I I say it's my duty as a mother to know the individual emotional needs of my children. Say, like,
mm,
I take a lot of pride in getting to know my children individually and showing up for them accordingly. And it's like I'm part of me doing that is healing my own inner child that wanted
mm,
to be seen as like not shamed for how sensitive I was, but like love, like give me all I
yes.
need is like extra love, like
Mm,
please. But and I see that in my son's soul. Like Steve and Kai, my one middle child and the oldest, are both like they're just like fierce little like warrior boys. They're always like doing this kind of thing. Where Soul is my very like just like soft,
mm,
lighthearted. He never got into like guns or like that this kind of warrior stuff. He's just so and he reminds me so much of like my younger self.
mm,
Like he needs those extra snuggles. He
mm,
needs and he doesn't know how to it's like he needs more. He needs extra.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like sure I could see that as an inconvenience, like, well, this is what you get, but no, I'm like, then I will give you extra. That's like
Mm,
what your individual self needs. The other boys, I don't know, it's just
mm,
there's something
yeah.
really beautiful about that. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. And like also, you know, the notion of that they're, you know, they tell us like, oh yeah, if you spoil them too much, or like they're just manipulating you, you know, and it's like, no, no, no. Like, I mean, we see how, I mean, not that we turned out bad, but like seeing our own wounds, like how, you know, if we would have probably had more of that and, you know, this real attention and love and care and you know like I guess a lot could have this healthy attachment could have already
Totally.
been developed earlier and
Yeah.
we wouldn't have to like do
And
it.
kids are intelligent kids are very manipulative. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
well,
intelligence showing itself.
yeah.
So Brett and I always in those moments when they're just being like little smart asses or something, we're like, well, we asked for intelligent children and we've gotten
Here
it.
you are.
Or we asked for, or I'm like, we asked for, I asked for I tell myself I want to raise my children to be critical thinkers. And now here they are calling me out on my own shit critically and not just listening to what I say.
Yeah.
And it's painful, but beautiful and humbling.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, you know, I can think of an instance yesterday where it's like, we're emotionally tending to one of the children's needs, and then they become a little bit like they're milking it. We see them milking it. So then
okay.
a boundary has to be set.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that intuitively comes with parenting if you're
Right.
doing the work and you're one thing that's been really important to me to remind myself of and to remind, Brett and I are talking about this a lot is a lot of moments we make personal that are not personal. You almost kind of have to treat them like business because it shouldn't be emotional. We shouldn't take it
Mm,
personal when our kid does something. It's
right.
like there needs to be boundaries, there needs to be, you know, and this is all obvious, but in the moment it can be really hard to do the obvious. But of course, like okay, we're tending to his emotional needs and he's feeling safe. And then he's like feeling a little too confident, a little too safe. And then he's like trying to put his foot down. And it's like, hey,
Yeah.
hold on. You still
Mm,
need to be respectful.
right.
You're taking it overboard. We love you. Like we
Mm,
hear you.
mm,
But also, you're taking it
yeah.
too far.
Yeah.
Intuitively, that all starts to like become really obvious.
Right, but I guess it's that, like, it's like to having that discernment, like, okay, and now I notice, okay, but like, and then setting boundaries, yes, but not like from the beginning saying like, oh no, you're just being manipulative
Exactly.
and, like,
Or
yeah,
not setting boundaries at all ever,
yeah,
which is a
exactly.
mistake I made early in mothering was not having any boundaries. And then
Mm,
what did I teach my child? you don't have to worry about how other people you make other people feel. And so I paid the price for that, and now there's been an unlearning process that has been beautiful, and you know, like I said, the healing happens, and that's not an issue anymore. But I can look back now and be like, well, there you go. Lesson learned the hard way. If you don't teach your children from an early age that you
Right.
have your own personal boundaries that need to
Yeah,
be respected, and then they understand that's an important part of relationships, of any relationship.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, and like by you setting healthy boundaries, that's what they learn. Like, oh wow, that's a thing. You know. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know what? I actually wanted to share a quote. Like I saw it actually on your story. But I wanted to read it and like just, like asking you like, yeah. I mean, I kind of probably know what you think about that, but still I wanted to share it. And it's from page called Save Your Sons. You should share it the other day and I saw it and I was like, oh, I have to like share it. So it says, having kids is the pinnacle of the human experience. There is no greater height of love. There is no more profoundly transformative spiritual and emotional experience in a person's lifetime. There is no next level. Holding and loving your children is the top of the mountain.
I only post stuff that I really resonate with, and
Mm,
just totally how I feel. And oh, yeah,
mm,
beautifully said. That's exactly my sentiment. That's like
wow.
all the other things are beautiful. I love growing my business. I love, you know, being a part of my community. I love all these other relationships that I'm cultivating, and all that's really beautiful. My relationship with self is obviously so important.
Mm,
There's just something that is unmatched when it comes to parenting, that
mm,
nothing else has made me feel what parenting makes me feel.
mm. So beautiful. So beautiful, really. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, and you can, it's really easy to go on social media or whatever and find information about how difficult and challenging parenting is. I mean,
right.
that's really obvious. It's so obvious. And yeah, you mentioned kind of like outsourcing everything is, you know, how much parenting are you doing? Like how, that's its own type of parenting. And maybe perhaps the way I'm choosing to parent has so much to do with why I love it so much. I mean, that, we are closely bonded, my whole family, and, there's always been co-sleeping and, you
Mm,
know, sharing, asking, being honest with each other and asking hard questions, and having family moments where we need to separate, from outsiders and say, hey, let's go talk about this, or
mm.
creating ritual that's like unique to us. I mean, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
It's okay. I love it. Oh my God, yeah, that's it. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's the way I definitely think there's something I feel really passionate about the way I'm raising my family. And I
Mm,
have so many goals that I'm working toward. We're looking to moving to the mountains and having land where we can,
mm,
you know, have, a better setup for like developing skills that we all want to learn, and
mm,
having our children kind of spending their days more outdoors, all this. But yeah, it's
mm,
fun. It's like there's a lot of motivation to create the life that I
mm,
envision,
mm,
having more children and seeing them like, wow, they're finding a lot of joy in what we have now. How
mm,
can we improve this? How can we even like bring more to the experience? And that's
mm.
really cool.
Oh, I love that. And just what you said also at the beginning, it's like you have to show up. It's like, because that's what I notice in myself a lot of times in my life when I'm like, oh yeah, I can just, do it another time. And I notice that I'm sabotaging myself a lot. But I guess it's that when you have children, it's like, okay, yeah, I gotta do this. But
Mhm.
exactly, you can do it fun. Like you can do it all these creative, amazing things together. And like Yeah, that is beautiful. Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of times where you have to forgive yourself from like poor parenting where you let the TV babysit for the day because you're really tired and not feeling well, and like that happens, and that's
Yeah.
totally okay. Like you know the
Right.
difference between like
Mm.
depending on that, and then I know when I'm like, man, we've been doing way too much screen time. We need to like do a little reset and get everyone back to spending most of their day outside or whatever. Like, that's okay though. Like, I forgive myself. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
it's so easy to be really hard on yourself as a parent, but it's like, all right, I see it. Time to go ahead and, shift
Mm.
things. So,
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, totally. Mm. Yeah. Ah, man. Oh my God. Yeah. Wow, we've been talking for almost an hour already. And I would actually like to keep on talking. I have actually so many more questions, but I wanted to, yeah, kind of like come to close. And there's one thing that I want to ask you if, what would you tell women that are not mothers yet, who are like kind of like myself, right? In this position of like, oh, not sure, and like, you know, being very, programmed from society and like, yeah, what would you tell them? Like wh basically kind of like what I might want to go at. It's like what you told me the other day. You were like, it's not, I don't want to like convince anyone. But then, like you said it so beautifully. I don't know, but like just what is it
oh,
like? What would you? Oh, you don't
yeah.
have to say that.
Okay, cool. Because I can like not at all remember.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know. I think what's coming to me right now, I'm just going to say what's coming to me right now
Yeah,
is
yeah.
if you're considering, if you're like in that in between and you're considering, like do something really fun and create like a very detailed vision. Like write it out, journal it, or just talk it out, maybe share it with a sister in front of you, and allow yourself to really paint the picture and feel like smile while you're saying it, this like
Mm,
vision of what you see mothering being to you. Like
mm,
paint a picture in as much detail as possible. Like I think that's what has carried me through motherhood is like I'm always seeing the vision. I'm seeing it play out in front of me in a lot of ways, but I also see what I'm working toward, and and really like allow yourself to feel and use your like mind's eye to see like what is it that I want from motherhood? What is calling me to that?
mm, mm.
And I don't know. I think you'll feel in your heart that I think it's like the answer. You'll feel it in your heart because
Yeah, totally.
there's something really beautiful when you allow yourself to be open to receiving and becoming and manifesting that for yourself. I mean, I'm not exactly where I want to be as a mother, but I continue staying focused on my vision of like where my family is headed and what I'm becoming. And that like that's what keeps me in like the glow is like it's I never let go of that. I don't know. It's and I feel like once you're a mother, you're always a mother. So
Yeah.
holding on to that just forever and like this constant, you know, upgrading it. But yeah, if you're in that like in between, it's kind of easy to, you're already living the life of like not having children. So
Right.
paint yourself that picture of like what are all the blessings and the
Mm,
beautiful things and like what all do you like yearn for in that? What does that look like for you? And like
mm,
allow yourself to really feel it like in like as much detail as possible. I think that's like so important. Yeah, to create that vision. And I
mm.
feel it's like let your heart guide you and also your biology, let your biology guide you. It's like
Oh,
it's built in. It's built in. It is built in to like,
mm,
yeah,
mm, yeah, beautiful.
somewhere underneath all of the trauma and pain and stories that are not yours, the programming somewhere underneath all of that, it's built in. I do believe
Mm,
that. Maybe it's very dormant and asleep, but it's
yeah.
there.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Thank you so much for that. And there's actually one more thing that really like stuck with me the other day where you were saying actually it's like it's your birthright, right? And I think that's kind of like what we were talking about also the other day about, you know, that it's kind of like, yeah, being not robbed, but like, yeah, like it is like, all these the back conscience you
It is
have, like,
though.
oh,
It is.
it is.
It's like psychological. I mean, it is. This is not. It's obvious if you're
Yeah,
willing to open your eyes to it. It's obvious. Where
yeah,
it's the sister. It's just like the sisterhood wound. You know, it's
yeah.
obvious if you look back on your childhood and look at the movies and shows you were watching and the way, the way the culture played out. It's
Mm,
so obvious that we have all these women with these like insane sister wounds
yeah,
because this is it's all so obvious. It's the same thing. Yeah. Yes.
yeah, right. Yeah. But it's so true. It's our birthright. Like it is. And I love that so much. Yeah, I just really wanted to say that because I feel like it's important to share. So
I'm glad
yeah.
you're because I didn't.
Oh yeah, that's oh my God, that conversation like really like wow, it did something very deep within me. It was so important. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, I wanna yeah. That's why I also wanted to share this because again, like I'm not a mother myself yet. But like yeah, and I feel like there are women more and more like also waking up to their actual nature and again, like of course there might be women who never have that, don't feel like that. But yeah, like I just want to yeah, just to raise awareness on this like because there is also big programming happening. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why like go back to the simplicity of like stop trying to save the world
Mm,
and like help yourself. And it sounds selfish, but it's exactly what the world needs is that if everybody like turned inward and helped themselves more
yeah,
and figured out what is self-love, what is, radical responsibility, what is, how can I heal my wounds? If we all did more of that, if more people
mm,
did more of that, the world would heal alongside humanity. You know?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
let's all stop putting so much, I mean,
Mm,
energy, your energy is your most precious resource.
yeah.
And I'm like so bored of how many people are talking to me about things that I'm like, I don't I don't hate that or love it. I honestly don't care. Hate and love, I was just talking to Brett about this. Hate and love both require my energy. So a
Mm,
lot of things I actually just like literally don't care because they don't deserve my energy or attention.
mm,
I only have so much and I know what my
right.
priorities are.
Mm,
So I cut out the noise, cut out so much of the noise and I'm like my world will only improve if I continue doing the work within and it slowly bleeds through onto like all of my other relationships and my own personal lifestyle. At the end of the day, I have to live with myself. At the end of my life, I have to live with myself and my choices. Did
mm,
I
mm.
enjoy life? Like we're like thinking so much about what's going on in the world, but it's like, I don't know, it's interesting, but it's also not. It's also like really boring. I'm like so bored with just like a lot of the noise. And maybe that's part of why I'm enjoying parenting so much is I've figured out how to turn off all that exterior
Mm,
noise,
mm, yeah,
like really be present in the moment.
totally. And in the end, it is just a reflection of what's happening within us, like just a shadow within us that like doesn't want to be seen, but it's like so desperately
Hmm.
knocking on our door, like, hey, look at me. So yeah, as we do the work within, it ripples out. And especially as parents and like the work we do, like then that's the next generation,
Yeah.
right? And so it's super healing. It's that it like being a conscious, aware, mother and like the way you already in pregnancy and like the way you give birth and the way you are a mother, that's what's healing, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it's like I've come to realize I don't really care what your politics are, and I have no interest in
Mm,
changing your mind about policies or whatever, this and that. I'm more interested in reminding you that like you have so much power in your life to improve your life without anything changing. It's literally all within. Like you can
Yeah.
go from
Mm,
feeling like the biggest victim in your world to feeling like the most empowered, like goddess in your world if you're
mm,
willing to do the work.
yeah.
And I say that because that's like what I've done for myself. And
Mm,
I've
mm.
changed very little externally. It's
Yeah,
literally just all the work I've done within. And I'm like, God, if I can do it, anyone can do it if you're willing. And then the rest,
exactly.
you
It's
know, it's like, just let all that be. Let all that be. Like let your be be like be the example. Be the
mm,
example. And you do affect others. Like when you're changing for the better, even if it's subtle, it
mm,
affects
mm,
others and people learn from it. I mean, be that change in your family.
mm.
You don't
Yes.
have to talk about it, but just be it. Embody it.
Exactly. Embodied. Exactly.
And then
Yes.
it will be felt and people
Mm,
will start feeling gravitating toward you like wow what is she doing right because I'm
mm.
like people will be attracted to that and yeah you'll get a lot of hate also
Yeah.
whatever just learn like do the work to tune that out and like just embody and
Mm,
that's what's going to change the world
mm.
not like being full of rage about political all that stuff. Like that's not going to change the world at all. That's
Right.
actually just contributing to the stress and anxiety, like the collective stress and anxiety. So
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
relieve
Totally.
yourself of that burden. Oh my God.
Ah, exactly. We've got enough to handle within.
Yeah. It's like that's what I'm like. There's no time to like I'm just so much less gossipy these days because I'm like I don't have time to gossip. I have so much that I'm trying to figure out within. Like I don't have time to care about other people's shit. I really don't. Like I don't have energy and time for that.
Mm,
And that's it's
yes.
cool. It's cool to arrive at that point in life where you're like,
Yes.
and to me a lot of the political stuff is like essentially like glorified gossip, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Totally. Oh. Oh my God. You see, we could keep going and going and going
yeah.
and going into politics and yes, or not. Just kidding.
No. Absolutely
Oh, no, absolutely not.
not.
Let's stay with birth and parenting and mothering. Oh man, I love it so much. Thank you so much, Vivian. It was
My
so
pleasure.
beautiful to have you here again and yeah, to hear your wisdom and yeah, you're just inspiring being, sharing your wisdom.
Oh, thank you, sister. I like nothing moves me more than just nourishing conversations
Mm,
with other women. Like I swear that's like just one of my favorite forms of medicine
mm,
these days. It's just
same.
quiet
Yeah.
or loud with the kids around, but just like intimate conversation. That intimacy between sisters is just so
Yes,
powerful to
it
me. So thank
is.
you
It
for
is.
inviting me. And
Mm.
I just treasure you so much. I'm so happy to call you my sister and my friend.
Same, same. Oh, yeah. So thank you so much for being here and yeah, speak soon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.